WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are in the voting season, and I'm telling everybody in every segment, I got my little voting form here. Please vote. It's important to all of us for democracy. It is not a spectator sport. Don Moeller and I doing lots of Baltimore Positive with mayoral candidates, also talking about the race itself, and also mixing some sports in, as Luke and I spent some sports time over the weekend, and he's doing Ravens memories, I'm doing rock and roll albums, and my pal Leonard Raskin was doing golf with golfers and football players. And, I don't know what Tom Brady and Giselle are doing, but literally as I went to get my Royal Farms coffee to have you on the show, I saw they were Instagramming stuff with their kids. And, he's going to go out and wear creamsicle this fall if football is played and probably win about 5 or 6 games from what I can tell, right?
I think I think they'll maybe win 8. I think they got an 8-8 shot. They got a good squad down there, and you put him in there. If he can throw, 20 touchdowns and not throw 30 interceptions, they might win a few.
Well, I'll say this, for all the hubbub about it and as bad as the weather was and the fact that we're in a pandemic to begin with, right? So how interested could you be in such a thing? I did not watch it. I thought, I will see the highlights at the end, right? I will see the 3 little funnies they made. I really don't care enough about their golf games to really care to watch them golf. As you and I have been back and forth, I don't love golf that much. I like it when Tiger Woods is doing it for real in Augusta and it's a sporting event, and it's like I like NASCAR. I'll watch the end. I'll watch almost anything that's a big event, but being snookered into it for 5 hours, I got to really have some skin in the game. I didn't. At one point in my life, I rooted against Tiger Woods. Phil Mickelson, I'm sort of ambivalent because he's a golfer and I really don't have favorite golfers, and if I did, maybe he'd be one of them. Peyton Manning would be the reason I would tune in because I think he's glib, he's funny. I love Peyton Manning. I just do. Whenever I've been in his presence, he's been a cool guy. And Tom Brady, I've never really been in Tom Brady's presence. As funny as that may sound, I've never been in a locker room next to him. I never attend any of those weird... I've been in a room with him, but I haven't really been in a room with him. And I don't really think I'm not interested in golfing with him for 5 hours, right? But Peyton Manning would be, if Peyton could give them all a raft of manure and really play the Don Rickles role, and treated him all the way he treated his brother, that might be 5 hours of Carson entertainment. But I don't know that it was that, right? It was a golf match in the rain, and people like you really dug it, right?
It was excellent to watch, other than the weather that sucked. It was Peyton start off. He's a funny guy. It's amazing to me how comedic he is. He's got clearly there's nobody writing his lines.
Well, he did Saturday Night Live once, remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah. My goodness, with him throwing footballs at those kids, there was no skit funnier. If you've never seen that, YouTube that up. It's one of the greatest skits ever on that show. But he was busting out right on the practice. When they were shooting their shots on the range, right at the beginning there, they asked him if he could choose a caddy for the day, who would he choose? And he immediately just jumped right in Brady and said he would either have Eli Manning, he'd have what's his name from the Eagles. That beat him in the Super Bowl.
Oh, Nick Foles. Okay.
Nick Foles.
Okay.
Nick Foles, or he'd bring out Belichick.
Wow.
And he just busted right on him, right out of the box. It was hysterical. And then listening to Charles Barkley commentary about the golf, and when I got to give Brady credit. He seemed. You see this guy out there on the football field, obviously calm, cool, the GOAT. He's the guy. He was tensed up on the golf course. He was all amped up, clearly. Tiger, Phil.
You're not going to go out there and golf with Tiger Woods, right? For real, right?
Look,
you can, in the same way Tiger Woods isn't going to go out there and football with Tom Brady, right?
That's right. He was clearly squeezing those sticks a little hard. but Chuck was giving him a whole raft, and when he wrapped that shot, it just was a PGA pro's dream shot that went in on that one hole where he hit an eagle. It was amazing. He just and then he started talking smack, and then he loosened up. The rest of it was just a lot of fun. Look, they raised $20 million for charity for relief for the pandemic. That was great. And just watching them out there, it was stunning to me that these four guys are out there playing golf in the pouring down rain for charity. Just the thought of it was pretty amazing. You figure it's a beautiful day. They're out there on the course. They're playing some golf. They're having some fun. No, it was pouring rain, and they're out there playing golf for charity. It was pretty righteous of them. And I'll tell you what, not only was Peyton ribbing it up, but he's a pretty darn good golfer. The dude was hitting it all over the course.
Well, it sort of harkens me back to, you remember the old Odd Couple episode where Oscar Madison was going to have 5 minutes with Howard Cosell and was like working on all of the insults, working on all the lines, consulted comedians to write the comedy, and Howard was just going to chew him up and spit him out because he was Howard Cosell, right? Because that's the way, and they were promoting Monday Night Football anyway, right? By the way, if you haven't seen the Gary Marshall tribute, my wife taped that on the Odd Couple and Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days, unbelievable a piece. But so I bring the Odd Couple thing up. But if they were given lines, right, you know what I mean? And I would think that Brady and his wife, he's kind of glib on Twitter, that he could be glib, but you can't be glib when you're not shooting well, and when you're clearly out there with Tiger Woods, and you don't want to go into the creek with a ball. You don't really want to send.
He went into the creek. He went into the woods. He went into the
right.
You name where he could hit the ball, he hit it.
Well, and then all of a sudden, whatever one-liners you have don't matter anymore.
Yeah, no. Peyton was out stroking him.
But apparently Mickelson's a fun guy too, right? I mean, and Mickelson knows his way around a golf course.
They were having a great time out there, and the pairings were great because you had Mickelson with Brady, so that lightened that pair, and then you had Peyton with Tiger, and I imagine Tiger can be pretty loose out on a golf tournament, but you figure he's out there to play. He's out there playing golf. He's not out there just yucking it up. But Peyton was. He was just having a ball.
Yeah, that would always be my problem golfing with people. I'd be like, here's the problem. You're going to take it seriously, and I'm not. So,
right. Play golf,
maybe we should have just gone fishing. I mean, that was always the hardest part of tennis, is that, no matter who you play tennis with, they need to be comparable to you, or it's just not fun, right? It's like playing chess with somebody, like Gary Kasparov, for crying out loud. Leonard Raskin is here. What's that? Say that again?
I said, if he did 3 moves, it's just not fun.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want it to. And tennis, I mean, I don't want to be out there with Agassi acing me every time. Leonard Raskin is our guest here. Raskin Global, they're our friends. I have the shirt on today, and we usually try to talk sports here. We do a little bit of the real world. We certainly do the business world and where we are. It's an election week in Baltimore. I want to give you a little oxygen to just talk about the things that are important from a business perspective for Baltimore. Because, listen, when you travel, and I have been with you, with your family in London, I have been with your family in New Orleans, when you go places, people say, oh, I'm Leonard Raskin. Oh, what do you do? Well, I'm in, I do financial planning, investment advisory. We've been serving folks forever here. You can find me at RaskinGlobal.com. But where are you from? You don't say Hunt Valley. You don't say my son goes to Laney Hunt. You say I'm from Baltimore, right? And with that comes something at this point. And it's always brought something, right? I guess back in the 80s, you go somewhere, you say you're from Baltimore, they'd say, I'm sorry you lost the Colts. Or they would say, hey, how about that Camden Yards? Or, hey, I was there at your aquarium. Or, I love those crab cakes. Or, hey, isn't Cal Ripken from there? Or, isn't Michael Phelps from there? Or, I don't know. I mean, there's a million things you could say about Baltimore. But in 2020, everything about what I work for here with Baltimore Positive, and I know you're involved in what we do, we need to lift our community up. And there's nothing that lifts communities up, certainly in the middle of a pandemic, like who we vote for and how we run our government and how we treat each other. And all of that goes into this. This is important even if you live in Baltimore County. And I think that that's something I've really tried to portray to everyone in Anne Arundel County and Hartford County and Howard County, where we've had all of the county executives on, literally from all of those counties, to talk about how global Baltimore is, Leonard Raskin.
Yeah, I think just the first thing you said is really important. When I go somewhere, people say, "Where you from?" I say, "Baltimore." They say, "Wow, man, people get shot there all the time." Like,
yeah, by the way, I had a police officer Tuesday evening up all night, my wife up, helicopter, the whole that was my reality on Tuesday night, literally.
Yeah, the officer shot. I think they said he was going to do well and was doing well, so that's a good thing. But wow, when you're looking crazy enough to not just shoot someone, but to shoot a cop, you got a record. But that being said, that's what people say. Or when something's going on like that, back when the riots were going on, I was getting tweeted and text and Facebook, and people were like, "Are you safe? Are you okay?" My place, unlike your place, isn't right near there, so I'm not in the heart of the city. I'm in the county. I'm in Phoenix, Maryland, office in Hunt Valley. But you're right. I think what happens in Baltimore proper city affects everything that goes on around it, and Baltimore County obviously are right around it. And the fact that we don't get a vote for the city is a little discouraging, but at the same time, you can say, don't blame me. But let's pick somebody who's going to lift it up and get a handle on this what's going on down there. And you're all about Baltimore positive. We got to lift it up. You got to have people that when you travel, when I go somewhere, I want them to say, "Oh, that's those Ravens, man. They're awesome," or whatever it is.
Or you fix that place now is what it would be, right? Until we fix this place, quote unquote, that will be the image. The wire will stick until there's this image of this cleaner, greener, better, brighter, happier place I want to visit, place I went and had fun with my kids on a weekend, place that was an incredible historical trail from Fort McHenry to the aquarium to the Science Center to an Oriole game to a Raven game to a crab cake to some listening to Eddie Lauer and Jason Seymour strum on bar stools down in Fells Point, and I had the greatest weekend of my life in Baltimore. I had so much fun. Went to the B&O Museum, and we were there for Artscape. We were there for a Rolling Stones concert, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
That brings people in.
You got to look around, and right now we got the worst probably of all worlds. You got bad things happening. We got the pandemic going on. Unfortunately, as a result, you got Artscape canceled. You got festivals canceled. I mean, this is the greatest thing was going to the Greek festival, the Italian festival, the Polish festival, the Jewish festival, and all these things.
Don't forget the Hispanic festival, because I did go to the Hispanic festival when I was a boy. It was in Hopkins Plaza, right next to the arena.
Yeah, I mean, going to those things was just the best, and cutting school to go to opening day for the O's, and all that was there, and you see, okay, well, maybe we'll have something. So we got that canceled going on in the midst of the stay-at-home orders, and in the midst of that, on a weekend, you got 10 people killed, and just what is happening. So yeah, I would commend listeners to get out there, vote. There's lots of people running. If you don't know who they are, do a little homework. You got a couple of days, figure it out.
Well, we spent 2 hours with every candidate, literally at Baltimore Positive. So if you want to know more about Tharu Vigneraj or T.J. Smith or Mary Miller or Brandon Scott, I don't leave anybody out. Sheila, did I leave anybody out? If I left anybody, T.J., all of them, even Mary Washington, who's on the ballot. But I'm holding the ballot up here because I'm showing everybody how easy it is. And Leonard, just on the global scale of things, guys our age, going back to Dundalk High School and me learning to vote, my dad, and I was kidding Ted Venetoulis when I drove him home from State Fair. I said, my dad and I campaigned against you. He said, we kicked your ass. We campaigned for John Cooley. I mean, I was 8, 9 years old, handed pamphlets out at Colgate Elementary. I mean, all of this has come back to me. But the words turnout, right? We would say, I don't know what the turnout's going to be. The weather wasn't good. The weather was too good. The polls were lines, and there were the turnout. Man, there's no more turnout anymore. It's in your mailbox, and you fill it out, you sign it, and
then drop it off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, and I've said this, and I don't want to be disrespectful as I hold up my Keep the Preakness in Baltimore pin, if I could find it on my desk here somewhere. We would always say, and Dick Girardi would always say this, and he was on my show 2 weeks ago. You can find him out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. He would always say, Preakness, man, that's the day you bet with the idiots. Nobody knows what they're doing, and they all go out and they bet money on horses. They don't know how to read the form or whatever. And I would think to myself, there's 391,000 registered voters in the city. Usually 130,000 of the 240,000 registered Democrats, 290,000 registered, fill it out or turn out, I would say. I'm fascinated when they actually mail 400,000 of these out to mostly living, breathing people to address is how many are really going to come back by the end of next week. This is an interesting social experiment, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be any more than turnout.
Fair enough. Interest is interest to your point. Sure.
People are going to get it, and they're going to put it with their ads and other stuff they get in the mail and put that in the recycle bin. And then there's going to be obviously people that are engaged that are going to be looking for it, that are going to make sure they got it, fill it out, sign it, send it back. Right? Like you said, it'll be interesting to see how many do return. It matters because the local economy matters. The number of Fortune 500 companies here, they're not here. They used to be here. They're not here anymore. And you look at all of the business, and you want to be attractive to the city. You want people to say, as you said earlier, I had a great time there, but you want a business to say, this is a place we put our headquarters or put a new office, and the education system, the tax system, the safety issues, we're going to bring 100, 200, 500 employees to the area from out of the area. And we want those people to be here, and this is the place we're going to set down roots. And that's just not happening right now. There aren't companies lining up to do business in Baltimore, and you need that. It brings in tax revenue. It brings in all kinds of revenue in other than tourist dollars and convention business and the like. And when that drains away slowly but surely, you get Detroit. And they're turning that place around, and we got to turn this place around.
Well, and that's my point all along, and that's why I started Baltimore Positive, because, Leonard, my wife and I famously sort of went out to Fells Point and had a bad experience a couple years ago, and I said, can this be fixed? And, then I started to scratch my Tony Robbins. I ran into Tony Robbins at a hockey game. And asking better questions has been a big, big part of my life, right? And I know it's what you do at Raskin Global as well. Ask better questions, right? Ask smarter people for better wisdom. Read smarter books. Subscribe to better thoughts, and better things will happen. And for me, the can it be fixed? That was a really dumb question for me to ask at that point in my life, because obviously it can be fixed, right?
Sure.
They fixed Cleveland. They fixed Detroit. They fixed Medellin, for crying out loud, right? So, I mean, literally, right? So can it be fixed? Yes. Now, then it's how and who. What is the strategy, and who's going to do it? Who's going to do it, and how are we going to do it? And right now, that the who is on this. These are the people who say, I am the who. And their strategies are the thing online. And then it's us. It's the community, because, I learned a long time ago, it doesn't matter who's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It doesn't matter who's down in Annapolis. Fixing Baltimore is going to be Baltimore's issue, because I don't feel the movement from Carroll County and Cecil County and Montgomery County, where they're worried about D.C., and Dorchester County, where they're worried about what they're worried about, and Ocean City, where they need to open up and get, it really is a little dog-eat-dog, even within the framework of the state, even when it comes to county getting PPE in the middle of a pandemic. They're all competing, right? And
Absolutely.
The competition between, I'm going to put my business in Baltimore or Baltimore County, in the case of Johnny O, that Baltimore City is really ganged up on, man, like in a big, big way, and I'm vested into it. And I didn't realize how ganged up we were on until I took a deeper dive the last 2 years into Baltimore Positive and learning the real challenges. I mean, Johnny O and Stuart Pittman have both come on and said, man, Baltimore needs help beyond probably what Steve Bisciotti said when are you going to buy a baseball team? You know what he said to me? He said, baseball's not fair, man. The payroll's not right, and you have to compete with the Yankees, and they spend 5 times what you can spend, and I don't know that I like that system. That it's not fair. I don't know that I
Right.
want to compete in that system. And Baltimore City has sort of a weird grandfathered from 1948. We've talked so much about this, and you want to learn more about it. The Baltimore Magazine this month has this How to Fix Baltimore. It's unbelievable. We had Ron Cassie on. You just learn about the history of all of this and the challenges Baltimore has that people like you, out in the county love Baltimore, love leaving money in Baltimore, love coming to Baltimore, love dining in Baltimore, love coming to see sports events in Baltimore, love everything. You've mentioned Artscape and all these things that you're going to miss out on, Light City. And it's like, how can all of us lift Baltimore? And I'm going to be asking that question a lot, not just for the next month or 2 or 3 or 6, but literally I'm going to be asking that as long as I'm in Baltimore because I spend a lot of my time in the county and use the city, and the city's deteriorating. And the last thing we want, Leonard, and you know this, is you come down here and Camden Yards is a statue to what used to be a baseball team, right?
Absolutely. Can't have it.
Can't have it. Tell me what you're doing, brother, because I know you're doing stuff out there, and so much of money's moving back and forth right now, and so much is built on fear, right? And you are always the one that's the long-term thinker when it comes to your money.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, we just did an article. Hopefully, it'll show up in Fox Business soon. And the questions were, what do you do now? What's different today than before? And I think the thing that this has shown, we talked about it weeks ago, is if you're an individual, it's a stress test on your personal, family, financial situation and plan. If you're a business, certainly a stress test on your operations, your reserves, your liquidity, your alliances. So what we're doing is the same thing we've always done, which is make sure people are in a position to weather the worst and take advantage of opportunity. And that's what we've been doing. There are tons of things that people need to be thinking about based on the CARES Act, based on the Secure Act, based on tax law changes. The government has reacted swiftly to pandemic, and you need to make sure you're lined up with your advisors to do the same. Should you be considering right now moving IRA funds to Roth IRAs if you're young and look at your tax situation? Should you be paying off debt right now to get more reserve and more lined up for the what's coming, or should you keep it in cash and hold those cash dollars available in reserve? Should you be refinancing student loans, car loans, mortgages with interest rates at all-time lows? Should you be investing? We have hundreds and hundreds of people who we've been in contact with, our clients and others, that when this stock market, when the pandemic came, the stock market took a massive hit, fast, big hit. We lost almost 40% in some of the averages in the market, and people freaked out. They didn't know what their future was going to be. They were scared. They sold their stocks absolutely at the wrong time. They reacted badly, and now from the bottom, the market's up 30% from there plus. Now they want to get back in. Well, there's massive losses that have been absorbed. What do you do next with the stock market? You got to make sure that all these things are in tune before this happens, so that when it happens, you're ready for it. You got to be in touch with your team. You got to be in touch with your advisors, and you got to make sure that again, you're ready for this before it happens. So when it happens, you know what you're going to do. This is not the time to act on fear, on panic. Art Laffer, I've met Art Laffer a number of times. He was Reagan's chief economist. He sits on the academic board of a company I'm very tight with from an investment standpoint. So I've heard him, I've met him, and one of his best lines I've ever heard him say is, lots of bad decisions happen when you panic or when you drink. And this is the case. It's not the time to make bad decisions, and people have, and unfortunately, they'll lose. Businesses are sheltered. You got to make smart decisions now, and you got to have good alliances now and be ready for what's next.
Everything's out there at Raskin Global. I'm proud to wear the shirt and call Leonard Raskin my friend. I'm even happier that in our friendship he leaves behind these investments that make my breath a little bit better. It doesn't matter my breath anymore. I don't go out. And then when I do go out, my breath's in a mask anyway. But if I want to like my own breath, I take your investment. It's not for others. It's for myself. It feels so selfish.
I'll give you one other thought that I think as a business owner, I think is really important. And right now, we're just starting to see the state open up, the county open up, the city open up a little bit. And if I'm a business owner, if I'm a retail business owner, a restaurateur, a bar owner, whatever it may be right now, I am reaching out to all my regulars. I'm reaching out to the community. I'm offering, look, I'm going from zero business to maybe 20% business to 50% business, whatever the government's going to let me do. So it's been as bad as it's going to get. I'm going to be offering massive discounts. I want people in my place. I want people lining up to get in, and I want them to know that I'm the place they need to be. I'm the business they need to deal with. And going forward, we're here to help and get business going again, because there's going to be a lot of businesses that won't even be opening up.
Hey, man,
and out there letting people know who I am, what I'm about, and that we're here and ready.
The last 75 days, all we've done is try to have friends on and people we know throughout the community just say, hey, back when they were trying to figure out curbside and take out and carry out and call in and all that stuff in sit-down restaurants. So I hope we get back to all of them and keep everybody. We're all in it together, Leonard. And, I appreciate you keeping us some wisdom here every couple weeks. Always love having you on. I know it's been a loss for your son in senior year up at the Laney, but summer is ahead. The good weather is here. At some point, we'll get some Fisher's popcorn and some Thrasher's fries and all that stuff in us, but and maybe some football and some baseball in us as well. I appreciate you, man. We'll see you again next week, all right?
Stay well. Talk soon.
Leonard Raskin, RaskinGlobal.com, the way to find them. And, of course, you can find them out in the BuyAToyota.com Audio Vault and our YouTube channel where all of our conversations about your money and keeping it safe and keeping your head on right during these times of pandemic. He's been doing it a long time at Raskin Global. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Keeping calm, staying local, and always Baltimore positive.